Welcome back to Couture Construction. I'm your host, Andrew Denny, and you're listening to Season 12, The Long Game. This season has been about the ideas, materials, relationships, and decisions that stand the test of time. The things that endure. Today, we're talking about a collection that was born from that very idea. At a time when the market is saturated with products designed to imitate age and character, Textures has taken a different approach with its newest collection, Revival. Continued, not reclaimed. That phrase challenges how we think about history, craftsmanship, sustainability, and what it means for a material to carry a story forward. Joining me today are Bryant, Dyess, and Scott Moore from the Textures team. Together, we'll explore the inspiration behind our newest collection, the meaning behind the tagline, and why the future of luxury flooring and architectural surfaces may have more to do with continuity than nostalgia. Bryant, Scott, welcome to the show. Thanks, guys, for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
So it's unusual on Couture Construction for us to have Textures as a guest. But, we're launching a new collection that is very unique to the industry. And it kind of fits with the theme that we're talking about this season, which is called The Long Game. And, with our previous guests, we've just talked about craftsmanship, materiality, intentionality, and what that means in building and designing a luxury home. So Revival, our new collection, fits perfectly into that. And, I don't want to so much talk about what it means for Textures, but really what the material is and why it's important in our industry and how it fits into luxury design. So with that, I just want to give a little bit of background. Bryant is based out of our Charleston office. Bryant is from the salvage world. He's an expert in antique materials and antique material sourcing. And that's the reason that his company kind of merged with Textures. And this was kind of the idea that we had long term, was to create a material that really spoke to kind of the heartbeat of our identity. A patina, rough around the edges, a history, a provenance, and personally, I believe every story matters, and that carries through to material. Scott Moore is Textures Vice President. His background is he's a maker, musician, just kind of a creative, very skilled craftsman, and, loves wood. So both of you guys have been a big part in creating this material and understanding it and being able to articulate what the material is and how it speaks to just an authenticity that can only come from antique material. So I just kind of wanted to tee that up and give our listeners a little bit of background on how we all arrived together. So Bryant, why don't I kind of kick this off with you, and Scott, feel free to jump in, but when did we start thinking about Revival and putting together a collection like this?
Overall, I believe it was always the underlining reason of why we merged and joined together and joined forces was the idea of having reclaimed continued involved in the Textures lineup. That had to be 3 years ago when we first spoke regarding Encore and Textures coming together. And I think in the past year, we really started focusing on creating a floor for Textures that grab the best of the collected and continued world of the antique wood business. And finally, we took a while, but we came up with a line that I think just portrays the best part of antique wood in our flooring.
And I also think it was just kind of serendipitous. One of the reasons that we, came across Bryant was because we were looking to fill a hole that we saw in the market. And that's kind of how we, first met 3 years ago. But I think one of the driving factors when we started giving it attention was we were experiencing limitations based on our knowledge and based on our access and what we could provide our clients, where we had done several projects with materials like these, but we're a little bit at, without being super integrated into that world, you don't have as much control over what you're getting and what it actually the ultimate product looked like. So the benefit of Bryant joining the team and the motivation behind that was gets us a little bit closer to the actual sourcing and the vetting, kind of, if you will, of these materials, because it is the hard part about this is it is a limited. I mean, everything that we're dealing with is antique. So, we kind of focus on that because reclaim can have connotations that can be everything from the bowling alley up the street that's, 20 years old can be considered reclaimed. So what we're looking for was not only that provenance, but being able to have materials that are not only unique and rare, but being able to put them in the application that Textures presents to the clients. So it was, meeting Bryant, and it kind of got, with many things, Andrew and I's wheels start spinning, and, it's been kind of a labor of love, but the driving force behind it was, can we bring to market the successful thing that's been for our clients, which is they're going for these looks and these materials, and we've basically been able to get as close to the manufacturer without having to own a bunch of six-figure machines. So it's been a bit of a journey, but super excited with where we got to and how we did it, because a big part of this also is there's a business side of it, but there's also the passion part of it. This is Bryant's wheelhouse. It's something that, as you said, a little bit of a wood nut myself, and so you get to have that added dynamic of knowing where it came from, and it just makes it more enjoyable, and also it gives us something that the market isn't served with. So
and from my perspective, when we think about collection and just connection to story, that makes it very appealing to me. It's such an individual, finite material that has a uniqueness unlike anything else, and the opportunity to create a system around these materials was fun. Because it's not just flooring we're talking about. Revival is almost an ideal, and it's a total system. It's an interior architectural system that includes antique beams, antique wall cladding, flooring, and it really is the best of the best. But it tells a story. It has a provenance. It has a patina. It's so suitable for families, for longevity, and I love that it's continued. There's a stewardship to it that
absolutely
really just is very personal and fulfilling. It's just kind of a gift of leaning into intentionality and materiality and doing it at a high level that's different from other people.
Well, and if you look at one of the things that, I want Bryant to kind of elaborate on is, when going through this process, this is like one of the things that improves as you use it, right? So when you're using these antique materials, they've already had a life before them. And that's kind of like when we went with, we're continuing its life in a different application. But I mean, Bryant can speak to this just because he's had the most experience with it. You can put a pretty floor down that's an antique material and it only looks better in 10 years, because you're interacting with it. And that's the thing that's probably so romantic about Revival is it is very specific, but there's that stewardship part of it that we're all, intentional about. But man, for the right moment and the right application, the right project, you need to live on it. You need to work with it. And, Bryant had given us some examples when he was doing training with the team.
Yeah. And so regarding, our flooring, with reclaimed wood, the biggest part about it is that people overall need to understand is that every piece that we bring in from a different teardown site or salvage site is different. Every piece is different. Every board has its own story, depending on the age the tree was when it was cut down for intended first use, depending on where it was used in the structure, indoor, outdoor joist, and how it was exposed inside that structure during the 100 years. And so when we take that wood, and all the wood is going to be old growth or half hard, and the sapwood, the part that's hasn't grown the heart in it yet of the tree, the sap area, that's what you're seeing a lot in these newer woods, and it only has one color, one dimension. With the heartwoods, there is tight grains there, and in between those tight grains is a different color. So as you use that board and put the finish on it and lay it down, that color range in that one board is going to vary and have a totally different look than anything new these days. And so each board is going to have its own look, and all together collaborative as a floor. Each floor is going to come together differently in a way to have its own story for each customer.
So, Textures is a distinctively Southern company, and these materials come from mainly from the Eastern Seaboard. But here in Nashville, Nashville is a newer city compared to Charleston. Bryant, just share with us a little bit about, Charleston being one of the oldest cities in the United States and its geographic location. Share with us a little about how you became attracted to this type of material, this antique material, and why it's important for the communities we serve all across the U.S., but specifically in the South.
So I started with antique wood as it was more of a fluke, so to speak. But I started building furniture with it. Started with like newer wood, make stuff, then kind of came across some salvaged, reclaimed material, and noticed the difference. And it was just organic. Started to notice the difference in when I salvaged something compared to buying it from your lumber source. And when I started working more with it, then I started paying attention on where it came from. And then I started paying attention on the year of the structure and when roughly that structure was built. And then I started just diving deep into that. And the more I dove into it, the more I learned about old growth, second growth, the age of the wood, what happens to the tree as it goes through the process of growth. And in the Southeast, and of course the East Coast in general, most of the lumber and any structure built in the 1700s, 1800s came from the Southeast region. We ship a lot of it up north during the Industrial Revolution, old growth heart pine longleaf trees. And these were enormous trees. The southern region had huge forest of heart pine old growth trees, enormous forest where they canopied 30 feet high, canopied out, and just packed on the weight, meaning the tree just got wider and wider and wider and wider of pure heartwood. Cut those down, harvest them here, and ship them all over the East Coast, especially in Charleston. Charleston's structures can date back 1600s. And these floors and these structures still standing today is all built by old growth heart pine, including the floor systems, which were 1.5 inches thick or 1.25 inches thick, tongue and grooved, old growth heart pine flooring that was able to breathe top and bottom. So when the floods came in, it was fine. They were able to breathe out and expand and shrink back during flood seasons and during hot seasons. So it did great here in the Charleston. But our industry, our buildings up in New York, Detroit, New Jersey, are all built from antique heart pine. And that's where we're pulling them out of today as those structures come down for new modern structures going up. That's where we're pulling all the heart pine from, bringing it back to its original, where it came from here, milling it up and creating new flooring with it.
Yeah, so I want to modify. He's definitely more of a wood nerd than I am. That's
I mean, maybe in the antique world, when it comes to cabinetry work, definitely not.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
The same.
I'll stay in my lane.
So,
Well, one thing I want to talk about as well is how wood is sustainable. Okay, and we're the only place in the universe that we know of that has wood growing, and it's actually our most sustainable resource. And it's renewable. But we take that a step further when we're using antique products and continuing their use. That's the stewardship. But one thing that's really unique about our line that even takes that a step further is all of our flooring materials are on an engineered platform. And that takes this finite resource and creates even more sustainability and more stewardship because we're able to create more from less. So Bryant and Scott, can y'all just kind of walk us through why that's important? And it's a differentiator with our line because it means it can be used really geographically. It's a much more stable material to be used basically anywhere. But the sustainability behind that and the care and the responsibility of the stewardship is something that was really thought through as we were developing this. So you guys share on why we did that and how it's better for the material.
Well, I'll just start with the one through line that we always try and keep within what we're providing our clients and taking to market are things that we know are proven. All of our materials are engineered, and that is for some of the reasons that you talked about. But when we came up with Revival, the pursuit was a lot of the antique and reclaimed salvage world is always solid for those materials. And as far as being able to yield more, all of this, as Brian had explained, where we're getting this from, this is usually structural stuff. So when we put it on an engineered platform, not only are we able to yield more from these beams and joists and things that we find, but we're also able to package it and manufacture it in a way that we do all of our other products that leads to all the success that we've had over the years with stability, to your point, environmental, especially when you're using, giving it its second life. The application that it's coming from to the application it's going to are two completely different things. A 1.5 inch thick beam inside of a warehouse that's not temperature controlled and has lived through every season and rain and all that is different from being in, a homestead where someone's trying to build a family legacy. It has to perform. So that was one of the kind of caveats that we focused in on early is you can make a lot of really pretty stuff, but we also need to incorporate all the things that we hold as a company when we take to market is not only does it have to look good, it's got to perform, it's got to have ease of use, and it's got to have a life cycle that is on par with, what our clients are expecting. So that was probably the first thing that was different in our approach was not only the sourcing of antique material, but then also applying it to our stabilized platform.
Very cool.
And just piggybacking on what Scott said, I mean, yes, I've been in the world of solid flooring prior to joining up with Textures for 13 years. And the engineered world of creating engineered backing is so much better. Of course, it's even in Charleston with our humidity levels, our building codes, and also for our contractors and homeowners, we see a lot of perfection is more looked at closely in the building world now than it ever has been, especially with our clientele. And we want to offer something that we can perfect, that we can replicate and create on a output level for our clients. And so I used to have to start with a 1 inch, at minimum 7/8 inch material to make a 3/4 floor. So a beam at a 12 inch by 12 inch, I get 12 boards out of that. Now we're being able to take a beam and stretch it to a point where we can get 3 times to 4 times the amount of flooring out of it than we used to be able to, and put it on a backing that is stable, can sand just as many times as a solid. That's what people don't understand half the time is when we do this 6mm wear layer, that is sandable up 3 times. If you sand a solid floor 3 times, you're going to hit the tongue and groove just like anything else. So it's has the longevity of a solid floor with the stability of an engineered backing. So that's a great thing that we're able to now produce through textures. And again, this is salvaged antique wood. It doesn't, you can't go get it anywhere else but from structures that have already, or structures that have already been built pre-1900. All of our material is coming from structures pre-1900, mainly because that's when old growth ran out. In the 1900s, old growth was gone. We used it all in oak and in heart pine, and then we went to second growth and loblolly. So we want the best of the best, which is pre-1900 structures, mainly 1800s to even 1700 structures. It's not going to be here forever. So the more we can make it green, make pretty much go green with it and stretch the use of it, the better we are, and the better for the material as the structures come down. One day it's going to run out. I don't know when that day is going to be, but one day it will. So stretching, instead of using 3/4 and stretching 4 times that amount is a great thing for us.
Very cool. So another thing that we did in developing the line that we really look at as a service to our clients is we put guardrails on what was created. And I just want to walk through why we did that. And again, I'll kind of tee this up a little bit, but it was very important for us because it is a finite material that we created a program in a collection that we can source responsibly and under the criteria we want to source it under. And we brought that, we combined aesthetic and that as a category, resource as a category, and the ability to repeat and scale so that we could serve our clients. And typically, historically, textures, we don't put guardrails on our clients' choices. In this collection, it was important to do that because of some of the reasons that Bryant just listed, but we also wanted to bring to market what we historically know is really beautiful. And again, like everything we do, it starts with how pretty it is. So Bryant, when you design this, and Scott, when you design this, let's just kind of walk through how this collection came to be, because it's seven options, or is it's 7 or 8 options, and it's 8 options, and it is something that I just think is a really helpful aspect of this program for our clients. So Scott, you want to start with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously there's a romanticism to this, and we're all kind of passionate about it, but we also are pragmatic about it. And so one of the things that you kind of have to conquer is, as Brian had said earlier, every board has its story, right? So the romantic side of that, oh my God, this is great, it came from here, whatever. The reality of that is you also are dealing with a mixed bag once you source it, of not knowing what it looks like because you're cutting a raw timber or a beam, and what it opens up is kind of a surprise. What we know from our clientele is that we've been super successful when we can set expectations. So one of the routes that we went with this, with the 8 SKUs, was everything except for one of the SKUs has some sort of dye on it. And the reason that we did that was that we wanted to create a color palette that plays with the materials, but also gives us a bit of not consistency or uniformity per se, but it just kind of blends and makes everything kind of work together. I think that we noticed that some people had a little bit of an aversion to sometimes antique or reclaimed materials can look kind of busy because there is just so much variation. So we dealt with that not only in the way that we chose to mill it, but we also dealt with it with the finishes that we applied to it, because the normal path for a lot of these people that use either threshers or mixed oak floors is that it would be a site finished application or just an oil and you kind of let it go. Beautiful looks, but again, the thing that's been successful for us as a business, and we are trying to replicate in anything that we do, is that we can have that consistency and be able to set the expectation. So even when you have this wide range in these antique materials, just doing a simple, very calm dye to just give it a little bit of tonality that just quiets that down a little bit, we felt was very important. So that between stabilizing and applying that, we feel like that was kind of the first set of guardrails. It's not, we're going to custom make you a color on that, because that doesn't serve the material itself. And Brian can kind of speak to, how we've kind of formulated it into set offerings, because really that's going back to, it's the best use of the material. It's in a form that we know matches in scale to most of the projects where it's appropriate. So we tried to make some of those decisions to make it a little bit more repeatable and understandable, which how we turned out through that R&D process, we've been able to kind of preview it for some people. And I don't think we've had anybody with the response of, oh boy, well, that looks all right. Yeah. Everyone's just like, wow, that palette is awesome. Mm-hmm. And it took, Bryant was spearheading that at the mill and watching it all as we were going through R&D and changing on the fly and making sure that we got it right. So very proud of it, but that was one of the intentional things that we did for the Revival line.
Mm-hmm. And with the material in the overall reclaimed world, the great thing about textures now is we got 13 years of manufacturing, when I say live and learn years. And in the manufacturing world of antique flooring, it is a live and learn process. There's no schooling regarding it. There's no real teachers on it. It's pretty much live and learn. And so when we came up with this floor, and Scott and I kind of got together on what is something that's repetitive, that's stable, and pretty much the highest quality that we can offer, we came up pretty much with certain materials I can continually bring in, and that material itself can create, one type of material can create 4 different floors. And that's what we, for sustainability purposes and repetitiveness, that's what we needed to do. So I picked the material that's used in every structure that we can continuously obtain, and also a type of material that that's going to be the highest quality. In the salvage world, we deal with not only factors of, yes, that beam's been in there for 120, 150 years, and whatever was on top of it has, the oils and the greases has gotten into it, bug infestations have gotten into it, and they didn't have treatment back then to keep bugs out. So the material I chose was material that had a natural barrier to bug infestations, and a natural barrier to different type of machine greases and stuff coming down on top of it, or horse or an animal type material coming down on top of it. So I picked the material that had a natural resistance to it, and that's what makes our floors the greatest, pretty much a great floor, is because it's not eaten away by bug damage. It's not going to have the staining and everything that comes from stuff. Because this wood is the most dense wood out of all the reclaimed material, and that density repels the insects over 150, 200 years. It repelled any type of materials being able to penetrate the wood, and that's why we went with the certain material. And through those materials, 3 different materials, we're able to create eight different floors.
Yeah, and that's something that's unique. One of the trends that I've seen in the industry is building a more healthy home. And this certainly fits into that because of, when it was made. Like it's pre-chemical. So obviously we use a water-based pigment and a water-based finish to coat them and deliver them, but it is it's a pre-chemically treated home that we know the provenance. We know where it came from. We know this is genuinely American made and American grown, and now distributed and manufactured by a Southern American company. Scott, I want to start this next topic off with you, but I mentioned earlier that Revival is as much an ideal and system as it is a product line. When we created it to be an interior finish system, just kind of walk us through the thinking of what that is and what that means for our clients and patrons as an ideal and an availability for them.
Yeah, well, it's not only with the Revival line, but with a lot of things that we've been doing over the past years. There is a need in the market of things always working in balance together. And what we found is the more that we can source and marry together, and we can ensure more of that continuity. So the goal with Revival is the low-hanging fruit is this is hard, right? So we have a leg up on other offerings in the market because the way that we're doing this it is not the easiest way to do it to begin with. Mm-hmm. And that was purposeful. So the second part of that is there's such a unique look with these materials that you want to complement them with, whether it's a wall application, ceiling, beam work, whatever, that feels in line and in tone with that. Mm-hmm. So with Revival, not only do we have, floors that we're letting be dictated by the source, right? So the widths have limitations on them because we're pulling from actual, dimensional timbers. The wall options that we want to have something that still has that permanence and still has the beautiful patina of age, but that can work in modern applications. Mm-hmm. So we have sourced cladding options with set lengths that make sense in some of the homes that are being built. So in this whole process, and why there was so much behind the scenes work on this, is because we're thinking about the final application. So being able to integrate a hand-hewn antique beam in a ceiling that then transitions down to a beautiful weathered gray pine wallwood that then transitions over to either one of our heart pines or one of the skip-faced materials that we have. Now you're creating an environment that is cohesive. And if you want to talk about telling a story, it's yeah, it's there is an aspect that we all love this job because we get to work on really cool projects and get to see beautiful spaces. But when you're able to pull all these things in and source them together and literally create a room where if you just wanted to get into it, you could have a guy like Bryant come over and spend 30 minutes telling you the story of the 3 surfaces in the room. So that's really kind of the fun, exciting part about it. And being able to make it that system where we have access to all that to make that cohesive environment that's probably one of the things I think we're proud of, being able to get it to that point.
Very cool.
And the Revival line overall continued. I love that term for it because it's something that has been in structure, material, or flooring. It's been flooring since the 1600s as hard pine floors in the 1600s, and it's been used as in its state it's in now as flooring or as wall boards, etc. throughout the age of time. And it's continued to be used as wall boards, cladding, flooring, beams, and new structure, modern material or modern homes today. So this has withstanded the age of the different types of I guess you would say, fabs that have come through in the, going from the early 1900s to the 1950s, to carpet, to strip flooring, to, just straight any other back to solid flooring again, now the engineered, like reclaimed, the look of reclaimed wood has always been a part of design and a part of structural use and material used in building and residential and commercial during that whole period. The mill that I purchased back in 2013 that I manufactured out of, it was started in 1950 as heart pine. So heart pine has been used and has been sold and used in different new structures, rehab structures, to match antique floors, has been used since then. So it's great to continue that. And I think it's going to be something, if you use it in your structure today, it would be something that will continue on. It's not something that's going to fade out.
Very, very cool. Well, guys, I think that gives our listeners a great overview of what Revival is and why it's important and what makes it a very special design system. We're really excited to introduce it. We'll be rolling it out here in June, and just very, very excited for just the heritage and the specialness that is given to it. There's a lot of care and skill and understanding, and it kind of just wraps up everything that we love about what we do into a product line. So now it's time for rapid fire. So Bryant, we'll start with you. One skill you would love to learn.
Oh, I would love to learn and improve heavily on nowadays is AI. Mastering AI is one thing I would love to understand. I'm a pen to paper kind of guy, and so computer world and AI world is something I would love to master.
Very cool. Very cool. Scott, what is one skill you'd love to learn?
My wife would say patience. I'm going to go a different route. I would love to, this is so odd, but I would love to be able to play the harmonica. Like,
very cool.
I can mess around with one. But the idea of,
want to be John Popper.
The skinny version would be more preferable, but.
Okay, Bryant, back to you. The most underrated skill in construction.
I think one of the most underrated skills in construction, honestly, and I'm a little biased in this, would be the overall role of a contractor, because he has to know the skill level as well as be able to check behind every sub that he uses, and know all their work. So he's a combination of everybody's work, and to check behind them and make sure they did everything 100% correctly is, I think, kind of underrated in a lot of people's eyes. A good contractor.
Very cool. Scott, the most underrated skill in construction.
I would say culture. And what I mean by that is when you look at guys that are really successful, they can build really beautiful homes. They've got all the accoutrements of scheduling. I understand this, but the culture of working on a project, and when you can get buy-in from whatever subs, artisans, anyone that you're using, you can tell that from whether it is you walking on a job site and it's clean, walking on a job, it's literally like mood. And I think that's the most underrated thing is
we were at one yesterday.
Right.
Everybody's
met this
super
gentleman,
excited,
just awesome, down to earth. He's busy. He's sweating through his shirt. He's got stuff to do, but he came off the scaffolding and had a great conversation.
One of the most interesting things I saw at that job site yesterday, sorry not to get sidetracked, but they had a refrigerator there, a full-size refrigerator.
Perfect example.
Plugged in for all of the subs to be able to put their lunch in, etc. And, nothing else. But, just a small little thing like that just allowed the people working there to bring their lunch and have cold drinks without having to pack a cooler every day. Those little things like that
makes an impact because in all of this, it's the craftsman. When you can build that culture in that environment, you're going to have a better outcome because you're there and you're friendly with the guy coming behind you and you're being thoughtful about him. It's not this wham bam, I'm in, I'm out. They can deal with it when they get to it. Or, you can get on Instagram and see all the memes of, who's worse, electricians, plumbers, blah, blah, blah. But I think that when you have, in the construction industry, when you can kind of frame that culture and that experience, the effect that it has on the finished product and the whole process is just, it ups it for everyone involved.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, final one. Bryant, to you, one word that defines good leadership.
Do I get to say why or just the word?
Yeah, okay. Go for it.
I think the hardest part about leadership, when one word, is being consistent. Due to everything you have to absorb as a leader and be able to put yourself in everybody else's shoes to try to understand whatever they're having to say, is still the hardest part is being consistent with what you believe the route should be going forward, and not wearing from that. But consistency, I think, is something that if you have and you do well, determines good leadership.
Very good. Scott, one word that defines good leadership.
Discipline. And I mean that in the leader. Not as far as, disciplining people, but you
get distinction.
Yeah, right. I was like, see, I told you that guy's a psycho. Yeah. Flipping tables is also super effective. No, I think that when you're a leader, when you have that, you have to have that self-discipline of, if you're making decisions and you're steering the ship, you have to have faith that you have made that decision and to stick with it, right? Nobody likes being on a ride that's rocking back and forth and back and forth. So I think that you get more buy-in from people and they will trust you. And even if you're headed in the wrong way, that ship can go hit a wall and be like, guys, that was me. My bad. But I think
just 6 of you have to get off.
Yeah. Now, the downside is not everybody's coming aboard. But I think that's super helpful to be effective.
Yeah, and I think one that you mentioned earlier that your wife would share is patience. I think patience is a good one. It's interesting. Through the season, we've had a lot of good answers to that question, and it'll be fun to kind of collate those and put those out at the end of the season. So, guys, this has been great. Really thankful for you being here and excited. As I shared, this is unusual for us to have a podcast about something textures related. But truth be told, if this was even one of our competitors or somebody else in the marketplace that had developed a system like this, really fits beautifully into the theme this season of the long game. So, that's it. One of the themes we've returned to throughout the season is the idea that the best materials, homes, businesses, and relationships are built with longevity in mind. Textures Revival Collection reflects that perspective. It's a reminder that great design doesn't have to erase the past to create something new. Sometimes the most meaningful work comes from carrying a story forward. To our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about the Revival Collection, visit Textures in Charleston Design District and Nashville Design Collective and learn more. Next week, we're closing out Season 12 with a special panel conversation, What We Still Don't Talk About. We'll be joined by a group of industry leaders for an honest discussion about the conversations that often get avoided in design and construction. From communication and leadership to reputation, accountability, and the realities of building a business for the long term. It's a fitting way to wrap up the long game. And trust me, it's going to be a fun one. Thanks for listening to Couture Construction. This episode was produced by Cast Collective and Chelsea Rand. Until next time, keep cultivating creativity.